Hello and welcome tonight. With just a few hours to the governorship and state assembly elections, civil society organizations charge the electoral body to ensure that the glitches of the last election are not repeated on Saturday. Independent National Electoral Commission says supplementary elections for the presidential and national assembly polls will not hold on Saturday, but on a date to be announced by the commission. Police in Kaduna arrest some members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria after clashing with the security operatives in Governor Nasir El-Rufai's convoy.
Federal Inland Revenue Service and the UK Revenue Agency sign agreement to boost tax collection.
On sports news tonight, Ghana hosts state funeral for former Black Stars winger Christian Atsu, who died in the earthquake in southern Turkey last month.
And from Abuja, President Muhammadu Buhari ascends to 16 constitutional alteration bills and 3 others before leaving for Daura to participate in the governorship and state assembly elections in his home state.
And in international news from London, officials say China's President Xi Jinping will travel to Moscow next week to hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
It's just a few hours to the governorship and state assembly elections across the country. Unlike the presidential polls, however, governorship elections will only take place in 28 out of the 36 states in the country, as 8 states have their governorship elections at different times from the general elections. Generally referred to as off-cycle elections, the affected states are Anambra, Bayelsa, Edo, and Ekiti. The others are Imo, Kogi, Ondo, and Osun states. Out of the 20 states where governorship elections are taking place, 11 of the states have governors seeking re-election on the ballot. In the northeast, the governors of Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, and Yobe are all seeking re-election in their states, while in the northwest, only the governor of Zamfara state is seeking re-election in that region. Staying in the north, this time in the north central, the governors of Kwara and Nasarawa are also seeking re-election. Down south, the governors of Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo are also seeking re-election in their various states. Elections will have a hold in all the 993 state constituencies nationwide. The elections are coming 3 weeks after the presidential and national assembly elections, which held throughout the country on February 25th. Originally scheduled to hold on March the 11th, the electoral body INEC postponed the election by 1 week. Now, the Presidential Election Tribunal restrained the Commission from tampering with all sensitive materials, including the BVAS, used in the conduct of the presidential poll, following the request by the candidates of the PDP and the Labour Party LP, that's Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi. INEC says the postponement was to make for adequate timing to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system, otherwise known as BVAS, ahead of the governorship and state assembly polls. Meanwhile, ahead of Saturday's governorship election, civil society groups are asking the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to ensure that the elections isn't defined by barriers and challenges as may have been experienced during the presidential election. Some of the CSOs spoke to journalists in Abuja, the nation's capital. We'll have more on that story later. Well, let's find out the level of preparations for the elections in some of the states. Residents of the 6 states that make up the South-South region of the country are anticipating a peaceful election while setting a development agenda for the incoming governors and House of Assembly members. Our next report takes a look at the teething issues facing the residents of the region and their expectations from the winners that will emerge from the election come Saturday.
Bayelsa, Edo, Rivers, Delta, Cross River and Akwa Ibom are the 6 states that make up the South-South region of the country. While all 6 of them will be partaking in the House of Assembly elections, there will be no governorship elections in Bayelsa and Edo states. The expectation of residents in Delta states is that there should be peace even after the polls.
I would suggest during elections, if our people will just block their ears, don't listen to the politicians, go out there and cast your vote. When you cast it, you protect it. That way peace will come. We need peace.
In Akwa Ibom State, the ask is that INEC should improve on its processes.
I believe this coming Saturday, INEC should try and improve on their network, on their timing, because most of us went out very early. Like me, I left home around 5:30 to meet up to my own unit, but ended up staying there till 11.
In River State, the residents call on the incoming administration to swiftly address critical issues such as unemployment and create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive.
We must do something about bringing employment back to the people, creating environments where the people themselves can create opportunities. It's not all about white-collar job. And River State is a place that has so much that we can build on.
We want to equally see a government that will engage Rivers people. Government don't know it all. We want to see robust engagement so that government can come from below.
Regarding preparations, voters in Cross River State say they are ready for the elections on Saturday. Residents in Edo State remind the candidates that a vote from the people is a call to duty.
The greater good of Edo is what should be the drive of each and every one of us. Now that the elections are by the corner, and expectedly new representatives will have the privilege to come on board in the later to be constituted Edo State House of Assembly, it's my hope, my prayer, my expectation that those saddled, they will not, for whatever reason, any reason whatsoever, abdicate that responsibility.
A legal practitioner in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, and the national vice president of the Ijaw National Congress call on legislators that will emerge from the polls to ensure that they adequately represent the people.
The governor is elected by everybody to carry out acts, but you see, the parliamentarians act like the mouthpiece of the people. So when you have a situation where you have councillors at the local government level, you have members of the assembly, you have a member in the House of Representatives, and you have a senator. So you have 4 persons speaking for us, and then our voices cannot be heard, and they're still under development. Then the question should be, what are the indices used in selecting a particular candidate? And then people should actually select those candidates that understand the work of the legislature.
The consciousness of the people is that better candidates should be voted for to be in the House of Assembly than other persons who have been moribund and have been mute over citizens' problems and democratic principles. There is need to respect democratic tenets and principles and practices. Are these House of Assembly members before and now will obey these principles? Are they really doing their work perfectly according to the citizens' quest? Whether no or yes, we expect that incoming administration or members of House of Assembly may do better.
With less than 24 hours to the governorship and House of Assembly polls, residents are hopeful that the emerging winners will hearken to their yearnings and boost the economic development of the South-South region.
Well, back to the story on the meeting between the civil society groups and the Independent National Electoral Commission. Well, they are asking the electoral umpire, that's the CSOs, to ensure that the election is not defined by barriers and challenges as may have been experienced during the presidential poll. Well, some of the CSOs spoke to journalists in Abuja, the nation's capital.
The February 25 presidential election, according to some election observers, fell short of expectations. For the state elections, the civil society organizations say they are not ready for any slips, so they appeal to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to be better prepared and avoid all hitches.
These citizen observers will be giving us parallel vote tabulation at the polling unit level so that their results can be protected, so that we can publish same on different platforms to Nigerians to ensure that the integrity of the process is kept and respected by all.
In Saturday elections, we expect to actually see increased vote buying, because that is why we came up with the phrase that politics is actually local, with different intervening factors playing out, and now possibly with the more availability of Naira. But it's also been a consistent trend in previous elections that there are more vote buying during the subnational elections compared to the presidential elections, and we still expect the same trend to hold forth in the Saturday elections.
The Albino Foundation, TAF, says their assessment of the conduct of the presidential elections vis-a-vis the participation of persons with disabilities left much to be desired.
This election should not be defined by the barriers and challenges of the electoral violence, the lateness of polling officials, insufficient provision of assistive tools, and communication gap faced in the presidential election, both at the polling unit and at the collection center, regarding the transmission of results.
A civil society organization under the aegis of the Inclusive Friends Association is also asking the Independent National Electoral Commission to take deliberate steps in ensuring early deployment.
INEC needs to take deliberate steps in the forthcoming governorship election and state assembly election to ensure the effective deployment and the usage of assistive materials as mandated by the Electoral Act.
It's the 2023 governorship and state houses of assembly elections. The Nigerian electorate are hoping that INEC would have improved on its processes, ensuring proper coordination, adequate security, early deployment, and guaranteed safety of voters and poll officials.
Attention appears to be building up in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, ahead of the governorship and state assembly elections tomorrow. This comes as 4 governorship candidates of some political parties in the state have stormed the state police headquarters protesting alleged intimidation by security agents. The opposition parties are alleging that their members and supporters are being arrested by security agencies on the orders of the state government. They're calling for the immediate release of all those arrested and asking that the police be non-partisan. The Commissioner of Police in the state promised to attend to them later. Staying with election matters, the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the Southeast region, Mr. John Amadi, has been speaking on the preparations being put in place by the police in Abia State in respect of Saturday's governorship and state assembly election. Addressing officers and men of the force in Umuahia, the Abia State capital, Mr. Amadi assures residents of the state that the election will be peaceful, as all necessary measures have been put in place to forestall any breakdown of law and order.
Yet, the next 24 hours, we have another important duty call. We are in this security agency in this country. The whole world look on us, the entire country look on us to be able to provide them conducive environment for them to be able to exercise their civic right, cast their vote without fear, without molestation. We have already assured Nigerians and the entire Southeast in my previous releases that nobody should entertain any fear. The police is here to protect the system. Anybody that wants to call in form of talking will have himself to blame. Anybody that wants to snatch box or to support the system will be promptly dealt with. And that's the message. We are deploying our men to dominate all the areas that we think problem will erupt. So we are signing a note of warning to criminals and non-state agents that we will not tolerate anything in the state that will not allow people to cast their vote and choose whoever they feel should represent them.
In part two, after the break, President Muhammadu Buhari assents to 16 constitutional alteration bills and 3 others before leaving for Daura to participate in the governorship and state assembly elections in his home state. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. With just few hours to the governorship and state assembly elections, civil society organizations charge the electoral body INEC to ensure that the glitches of the last election are not repeated on Saturday. Independent National Electoral Commission says supplementary elections for the presidential and National Assembly polls will not hold on Saturday, but on a date to be announced by the Commission. Police in Kaduna arrest some members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria after clashing with security operatives in Governor Nasir El-Rufai's convoy. An international criminal court issues warrant of arrest against Russian President Vladimir Putin over war crimes in Ukraine. The Independent National Electoral Commission INEC says it does not intend to conduct supplementary elections arising from the presidential and National Assembly polls together with the governorship and Houses of Assembly elections that will take place on Saturday, March the 18th. A statement by INEC's National Commission and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, says that information is not correct. He explains further that the said elections will take place at the dates to be announced by the Commission, and that will be immediately after the governorship and House of Assembly elections. According to Mr. Okoye, this should not be confused with the Enugu East Senatorial District election, which was countermanded to allow Labour Party to conduct a fresh primary election to replace its dead candidate in line with the provisions of Section 34(1) of the Electoral Act 2022, as well as the Esan Central, Esan West, Igweben Federal Constituency of Edo State, following issues with the ballot paper for election, saying that these are not supplementary elections, but main elections that could not be held earlier. If the word of the police command is one thing to go by, or that's the police high command, then all seems set for security coverage for governorship and House of Assembly elections are scheduled for tomorrow. Now, the Force Public Relations Officer, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, while speaking on our special election program, the 2023 verdict, explains that all deployment of personnel has been made and arrangements concluded for a secured process.
Government area has been taken care of. Every INEC office or facility has been protected. All necessary and vulnerable places have been protected by all security agencies across the country. So we have done our deployment. It's just to do to have an improvement on what we emplaced the other time during the presidential and National Assembly elections on 25th February 2023. We have reviewed our strategies and we have noticed where there were some issues, security lapses or gaps, and we have built on this to have a better, secure, a more secure electoral process come tomorrow, Saturday, 18th of March 2023 for the gubernatorial elections and state houses of assembly elections. Holistically, our security arrangement has been so okay, and we have improved on where we noticed some lapses the other time. So we are very, very optimistic that tomorrow is going to be a walkover. It's going to be very easier for us, and we're going to have a seamless exercise tomorrow across all the states where we're going to have the guber elections. And where we are not having guber elections, we are having state houses of assembly election in all these areas. So all the states are involved in one thing or the other tomorrow, and we have done what we should to make sure the election is secured and very credible tomorrow again.
Well, the Force PRO also spoke on the inciting viral video from the Lagos State Transport boss Musiliu Akisoya, popularly known as MC Oluomo, saying the Lagos State Command is already investigating the matter.
If somebody is saying you should not come out to vote, we operate secret ballots. If I'm going out to go and vote, and somebody is saying, are you voting for me? I say yes. And I get to the booth. I print another party. I'm not going to show anybody my ballot paper. Nobody is knowing what I've done. Nobody is knowing the person I voted for. That is by the way. The second thing is, this evening I think the person involved, MC Oluoma himself, I saw a video again with one, is it Mama Chidima, Mama, one evil woman too, that whose name was mentioned in his video, is debunking that threat, that it is not true, it's just a joke, and he's joking to a particular, he's making a joke with some particular woman, and the woman too came up to say it is not so, they are just trained banters and it's a joke. So let us take it a joke, like you said. But nobody has the right, has the audacity to tell Nigerians not to come out and vote. It is not allowed. It is not possible and it's not proper. But he has come out to debunk that it is not true. And let us leave it that way, that it is not true and it is a joke within one or two persons in that area at that particular point in time. Even the CP Lagos was on the television, live program on the television this afternoon to address that if it is true, they are even working on it and investigating that matter and looking into it. And this night, the man himself came out to debunk it that it is not true. So it is not true. Lagosians should go out tomorrow. Let them go and vote. Let them go to their various polling units and vote for their candidate of their choice.
All right, now let's head to the nation's capital, and Linda Kigbe is standing by from our Abuja studios. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Ayotunde. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has arrived at Daura, Katsina State ahead of the 2023 governorship and state assembly elections. The president, who arrived at the Umaru Yar'Adua International Airport, Katsina, was received by Governor Aminu Masari of the state and some members of the State Executive Council. Before the president departed, he assented to 19 bills in furtherance of Section 58(4) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. According to a statement issued by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, Senator Babajide Omoorare, 16 of the bills are constitutional alterations of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. One of them ensures that railway has been removed from the exclusive list to the concurrent list, now enabling states to invest in the infrastructure. The statement also reveals other highlights of the assented constitutional alteration bills, to include ensuring financial independence of state houses of assembly and state judiciary, regulating of the first session and inauguration of members-elect of the national and state houses of assembly and for related matters, and ensuring that the president and governors submit the names of persons nominated as ministers or commissioners within 60 days of taking the oath of office for confirmation by the Senate or state houses of assembly. The statement adds that the president also assented to 3 other bills, to include the Nigerian Institute of Leather and Science Technology Act, the Nigerian Institute of International Relations Act, and the Federal Medical Centers Amendment Act. The Kaduna State Police Command has confirmed the attack on the convoy of a state governor, Nasir El-Rufai, by suspected members of Islamic movement in Nigeria, popularly known as Shiites. A statement by the spokesman of the command, DSP Mohammed Jalige, says the security operatives attached to the governor's convoy cleared the Baki-Rua axis of Rigasa, Nnamdi Azikiwe Expressway, after armed hoodlums suspected to be members of the proscribed Islamic movement of Nigeria, who attacked law-abiding citizens and had prevented motorists from plying the route. He explains that the hoodlums, in a large number, were intercepted harassing innocent citizens on Thursday, March 16, 2023, at about 3 p.m., when the convoy of the Kaduna State Governor arrived at the scene. Meanwhile, the Shiites say an unconfirmed number of its members were killed following a clash with security details attached to the convoy of Governor Nasir El-Rufai. A member of the group, Muhammad Ibrahim, told Channels Television that the procession met the governor's convoy coming in the opposite direction, and the security details attached to the governor's convoy opened fire on the protesters, and in the process killed some of their members and injured several others. In Niger State, 5 people have also been reported killed after gunmen launched an attack on 2 communities in Paikoro and Munya local government areas. The village head, the medical practitioner and the security officials, as well as a vigilante, were killed by the attackers, who also abducted well over 60 people, including women and children. Some of the residents told Channels Television that the gunmen, numbered about 100, invaded Beni and Adunu communities in 2 groups in broad daylight at about 2 p.m. on Monday and raided one house after another, dispossessing the people of their money, foodstuff and other valuables. At Beni, the group killed the village head when they sighted him returning from the farm and abducted some people, mostly women and children, while at Adunu community, a medical practitioner was killed when he attempted to escape into the bush on sighting the gunmen. It was gathered that those who could afford between 10 to 20,000 naira cash were set free by the gunmen. After raiding the 2 communities, the attackers reportedly ran into an ambush by the Joint Security Task Force as they made their way into Kaduna State, where a gunfight ensued, leading to the death of a member of the Joint Security Task Force and a local vigilante. To legal matters, the Court of Appeal in Abuja has dismissed an appeal for bail by Sunday Ubwa, an associate of the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police Abba Kyari. Delivering judgment, a 3-man panel held that Mr. Ubwa's appeal lacks merit. In the lead judgment, Justice Stephen Adder held that the appellant placed no new materials before the court to warrant it to depart from the earlier decision on the issue by Justice Emeka Wite of the Federal High Court, Abuja. Justice Adder also affirmed the ruling by Justice Wite, which on March 28, 2022, rejected Ubwa's application for bail on the grounds that the prosecution placed sufficient materials before the court to warrant its rejection of the bail application. Mr. Ubwa, who is an Assistant Commissioner of Police, is standing trial with Abba Kyari and 3 other former members of the Intelligence Response Team of the Nigeria Police on charges relating to unlawful dealing in drugs and attempting to tamper with evidence. They're being prosecuted by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. And staying with legal matters, the National Judicial Council, NJC, under the chairmanship of the Chief Justice of the Federation, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, has recommended the immediate compulsory retirement of the Chief Judge of Taraba State High Court, Justice Philibus Adetor. A statement by the NJC's Director of Information, Soji Oye, explains that the Council recommended Justice Adetor for compulsory retirement following the findings of an investigation committee into a petition written against him by a former Minister for National Planning, Senator Mohammed Sanusi Dagash. Senator Dagash, who is a member of the House of Representatives for Mate, Mungono and Ngazi in Borno State, had alleged that Justice Adetor failed to deliver judgment in the suit of Malam Kasim Yahya Ahmed versus Shitu Womo and Shuwari Farms Limited, 30 months after adoption of final addresses by the parties. The NJC found that the Taraba State CJ indeed breached the provisions of the Constitution and therefore recommended him to Governor Darius Ishaku for compulsory retirement. The NJC at the meeting also considered the report of one of its complaints assessment committees and agreed with the committee's recommendation to empanel 4 committees to further investigate petitions against 4 judges. And still ahead on the news at 10, Federal Inland Revenue Service and UK Revenue Service sign an agreement to boost tax collection. That's on Business News. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. Well, the crisis rocking Edo State-owned Ambrose Ali University should be resolved within the next 90 days. Well, that's coming from Governor Godwin Obaseki. Well, Governor Obaseki made the comment or the commitment after engaging the institution's community at the main campus in Ekpoma in Esa West local government area of Edo State, where he promised to address all the issues listed ranging from alleged sack of lecturers to unpaid salaries of workers.
The presence of many traditional rulers from Ekuma and its surrounding communities inside the main auditorium of Ambrose Ali University suggests this gathering is not for an academic exercise.
You are welcome, sir.
It's actually a reconciliatory meeting at the instance of the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, to resolve the issues threatening to shut down the institution.
If we all sit down, accept and talk about it, what problem can we not solve? But what we must never do is mix politics with academics.
When the floor opens for contributions from different stakeholders, the major complaints are non-implementation of policies, wrongful dismissal, and dissolution of the special intervention team set up by the state government to run the university.
The letter stated that because of reposition of the university, we hereby disengage them. They were not tried or convicted of any misconduct or gross misconduct or violation of the university rules and regulations.
December 12, 2017, you were seated here. I was writing this all. And we had a discussion with you and the then Vice Chancellor, Professor Otimbawo. Issues between us two, everybody were on the ground. And you promised to solve the issue. Now we are back to that same issue.
It is true that you have the good intention of repositioning the university, but the wrong persons were sent to come and manage the affairs of a university.
Mr. Obaseki agrees to look into the grievances immediately. The last request, however, will follow due process.
It's going to wind down within 90 days. That's the limit. By then, it is going to hand over to a governing council. I'm sorry, you see, you cannot. There's a process, there's a bill in the House now, amending the law of the university. It's part of the reform. And after that, the council is set up.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the glory of God.
Amen. Before leaving, Governor Godwin Obaseki commissions an administrative building block in the Ambrose Ali University main campus, Ekuma.
Nigerians have continued to express mixed feelings over the current scarcity of premium motor spirit in the nation's capital. While some heave a sigh of relief as the long queues have reduced, others decry the lack of adequate cash to purchase the product as payment via bank electronic platforms have also become increasingly challenging. Our correspondent Dele Omayeni tells us more.
Fuel scarcity in Nigeria's seat of power has been a perennial challenge since February of 2022. However, in December, the menace disappeared, with several residents applauding the relevant authorities for the improvements in the availability of products. The progress made suddenly vanished some weeks to the 2023 presidential elections, as long queues suddenly appeared, with the attendant black market sellers also resurfacing. The past few days have seen some level of improvements, albeit some motorists insist it can be better.
For the past 2-3 days, it has been very easy anyway. I think if you ask me, at least there's a slight improvement as it is now. There is more improvement now than it were before. So slightly there's improvement. Our major problem, I think, should be the issue of currency. But fuel for now is getting better.
However, the cash crunch brings a new twist to the matter, as the alternatives to cash have not made things easier either.
Don't tire even me, don't tire me. Even the cash have no day. To withdraw your money no day. What do you want me to make you do? When I give them my card now, decline. Every day sufferness. What do they want me to do for this country? I don't understand. See now, let's see if you don't get cash, cannot buy fuel. Where's the cash? Now you see now, see what the guy they tell me now. Say if I don't have cash, I cannot enter police station. So what thing now? I don't have fuel inside this car now, and I have my card to buy fuel or to buy even food. It's a problem.
It will take a longer time because of the POS, and after I do the POS, they will charge you. The POS people will charge you on the account, and again they will charge you.
Let's moving on now. The International Criminal Court, the ICC, has issued a warrant of arrest for Russian President Vladimir Putin for alleged war crimes in Ukraine. He has been accused of forcibly deporting children from Ukraine to Russia. Russia has rejected the ICC's decision and described the move as outrageous and unacceptable. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin is the third serving president to be issued an ICC arrest warrant after Sudan's Omar al-Bashir and Libya's Muammar Gaddafi. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and other international stories in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Officials say China's President Xi Jinping will travel to Moscow next week to hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. China's Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said China would uphold an objective and fair position on the war in Ukraine and play a constructive role in promoting talks for peace. The Kremlin said they would discuss a comprehensive partnership and strategic cooperation. The visit comes as Beijing, an ally of Russia, has offered proposals to end the war in Ukraine, to which the West has given a lukewarm reception. China's peace proposals called for peace negotiations and respect for national sovereignty, but the 12-point document did not specifically say that Russia must withdraw its troops from Ukraine. The Kremlin has threatened to destroy any fighter jets given to Ukraine by its allies after two countries promised Soviet-era planes. Slovakia became the second NATO country to pledge Kyiv some MiG-29 aircraft a day after Poland. Ukraine has asked Western countries for modern jets like the F-16, but because of long training times, these are seen only as long-term options. Other NATO countries are considering sending Soviet-era planes such as the MiG, which Ukrainian pilots are trained to fly. Several cities in northeast Brazil are suffering from serious unrest caused by criminal gangs. For the third night, gang members set buses ablaze and carried out gun attacks on buildings in urban areas in Rio Grande do Norte state. The attacks are thought to have been sparked by conditions in jails holding gang members. Brazil's government sent hundreds of federal security forces to the region earlier this week. The state government has convened a crisis cabinet and has asked the federal government for more support. The death toll from a coal mine explosion in Colombia has nearly doubled to 21 after the bodies of 10 miners were discovered. Rescue teams had been scrambling to pull out the miners who were trapped underground after the blast as relatives waited for news nearby. The local governor says 9 people have made it out alive. Rescue workers in Malawi are recovering more bodies following the devastation caused by Tropical Storm Freddy, which has killed 326 people in the country so far. Soldiers have joined rescue operations and have been rummaging through debris in search of victims swept away by mudslides and floods. Here, President Lazarus Chakwera visiting victims of Cyclone Freddy in hospital. Chakwera has declared 14 days of national mourning and called for international support for relief efforts. He said that more than 80,000 people have been displaced. The Prince and Princess of Wales have celebrated St Patrick's Day with the Irish Guard. Prince William, the outgoing colonel of the Irish Guard, was joined by his wife Kate, the incoming colonel, at the St Patrick's Day parade in Aldershot. It is Kate's first time attending the parade as colonel of the regiment, having recently visited the 1st Battalion Irish Guards on Salisbury Plain. And a former Australian professional surfer has received a hero's welcome after riding his board for over 40 hours. Blake Johnston was carried above the heads of a cheering crowd on a Sydney beach on Friday. It's after he broke the world's longest recorded surfing session, moving past the previous mark held by the South African Josh Enslin of 30 hours and 11 minutes. Surfing more than 700 waves during his session, Johnson took on the world record to raise $225,000 for youth mental health initiatives.
Yeah, pretty good.
You just smashed the world record. Are you tired?
Yeah, I still got a job to do though. I said 40, so we'll go and give it a crack.
Yeah, how are you feeling overall at the moment?
Yeah, pretty cooked. Thanks everyone, you're the best. Everyone deserves to feel awesome, so deserve to take care of yourselves and good on you.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Ghana has held a state funeral for former Black Stars winger Christian Atsu following his death during the earthquake in southern Turkey last month. After its discovering the ruins, his body was flown back to Ghana 2 weeks later. Arriving draped in Ghana's national flag, mourners silently filed past Atsu's coffin in the parking lot of the country's parliament building in the capital, Accra. Family, fans and beneficiaries of Atsu's charity remembered him as a philanthropist as well as an outstanding footballer. In the Champions League, title holders Real Madrid have been drawn to play Chelsea in the quarterfinals. The tie is a repeat of last season's quarterfinals. Now, Pep Guardiola faces a reunion as Manchester City square off against Bayern Munich. Napoli take on AC Milan in an all-Italian showdown, while Inter Milan battle Benfica. The first legs will be played on April the 11th and 12th, while the second leg will come up on April the 18th and 19th. In the UEFA Europa League, Manchester United face record 6-time winner Sevilla in the quarterfinals, while Juventus will play Sporting Lisbon for a place in the last 4. AS Roma take on Feyenoord in a repeat of last season's Conference League final, with Bayer Leverkusen drawn against Union Saint-Gilloise of Belgium. The first legs will hold on April the 13th, with the return legs a week later. And that's a wrap on Sports News. I'm Victor Matthias. It's back to Ayatollah.
Many thanks, Victor. And the main news again. Civil society organizations have charged INEC to ensure that the glitches of the last election are not repeated come Saturday. We also told you that the International Criminal Court has issued a warrant of arrest against Russian President Vladimir Putin over war crimes in the Ukraine. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Good night and stay safe.